Intro, a gentle invitation to rest. Welcome, dear listener. Wherever you are, whatever you carry in your heart tonight, let it rest now. Let it be quiet. You are safe here. Tonight, we'll wander slowly through a place that once breathed with soft winds and rustling branches. A place tucked behind ancient stone walls and perfumed with thyme and lavender. A place not marked on maps, but remembered in whispered stories. It is called the Garden of Leaves. Not for any grand palace or historic battle, but for the way the air moved through it, for how time lingered among its trees. This is a tale of gentle lives, quiet customs, and soft evenings long ago. So, settle in. Let your pillow cradle you like the mossy banks of a hidden path. Breathe slowly, and allow the old world to rise around you, leaf by leaf. Part 1. The garden beyond the walls. In a modest town nestled between green hills and golden fields, in what is now southern France, there once lived a family of stewards. Not lords or kings, no, these were caretakers of land and time. Their home, simple yet noble, sat just beyond the abbey walls. Behind this house lay a garden, not manicured nor regal, but sprawling, old and kind. Locals called it Le Jardin de Feuilles, the Garden of Leaves. Not because of grandeur, but because in the quiet hours of evening, the trees whispered to one another. Leaves turned slowly with the breeze, like pages of a sleepy book. The garden was filled with pear trees and elderflower, with creeping ivy and chamomile blooming soft and white along the mossy stones. There were old benches carved from beechwood, softened by age and rain, and beeswax lanterns that gave off a honey-colored glow in the dusk. Each evening, just before the stars blinked awake, the women of the household would stroll through the paths. Their linen skirts would catch the scent of rosemary, their hands would brush over the velvet leaves of sage. Some would hum little songs from their childhood, some would be silent. All would move slowly, as though time itself had slowed in the garden's shade. AI image prompt number 1. Use at 2:30, prompt. Medieval French countryside garden at golden hour, soft evening light filtering through pear trees and elderflower bushes, worn stone pathways covered in moss, a woman in pale linen robes strolling slowly, trailing fingers through herbs like rosemary and sage, glowing beeswax lanterns on rustic wooden posts, soft mist rising near the ground, rich textures, warm palette, peaceful and cinematic atmosphere. Style: cinematic realism, soft painterly touch. Part 2. The gentle art of evening. In the 13th century, daily life was often busy, filled with tasks from dawn to dusk. But evening belonged to stillness. Especially here. Before the bell of Compline rang from the abbey, the household would take their supper, always simple. Lentils stewed in herbs, bread warmed on stone, and sometimes fresh cheese wrapped in fig leaves. They sat outdoors when the weather was mild, cross-legged on woven mats or wooden stools under the plum trees. There were no forks in that time, only spoons carved by hand, and small eating knives kept sharp with river stones. People ate slowly, with gratitude, and rarely in silence, but never in haste. Children, their hair tangled from the day's play, would chase fireflies through the bramble near the orchard. An elder, often an aunt or grandmother, might recite soft tales from memory, stories of foxes who tricked noblemen, or owls who guided lost kings. And when the food was gone and the sky had dimmed, someone would refill the little oil lamp that hung beside the ivy-covered gate. Its flame, no larger than a thumbprint, seemed to hold back the night just enough to welcome dreams. AI image prompt number 2. Use at 5 o'clock, prompt. Evening garden supper. In medieval France, a small group of people seated beneath plum trees on woven mats and stools, simple wooden bowls and spoons, food like lentil stew, cheese in fig leaves, warm bread, surrounded by herbs and ivy-covered stone walls, faint candlelight from a tiny hanging oil lamp, children chasing fireflies in the background, dreamy warm glow, peaceful and timeless mood. Style: warm romantic realism, rich historical textures. Part 3. The language of leaves. In the Garden of Leaves, no one hurried. That was its silent rule. And over time, the people who lived near it began to learn its rhythms. They planted by moonlight, not just by season, and harvested chamomile only after the petals had turned their faces downward. They said the leaves spoke when brushed by rain, and that no visitor could remain anxious for long once they stepped beneath the mulberry tree. One woman, Dame Coralie, kept a journal of the plants that grew in each corner of the garden. She didn't write in Latin or French, but in drawings, tiny leaves sketched with ink she made from walnut hulls. Her symbols recorded when the linden bloomed, which path the ants used, and where the softest moss grew. She believed plants remembered kindness. She once wrote, "The thyme grows stronger if sung to. The roses open for hands that carry no tools." Others in the town thought her odd, but children adored her. They called her the leaf whisperer. She let them pick violets to press between vellum, or trace tiny slug trails with their fingers, giggling at the silver shimmer left behind. AI image prompt number 3, use at 7:30, prompt. Medieval herbalist woman sitting cross-legged under a large mulberry tree in a soft garden at dusk, ink-stained hands sketching plant drawings in a handmade vellum book, surrounded by baskets of herbs, soft candlelight beside her, children watching nearby holding violets, stone walls covered in ivy and moss, peaceful serene mood, soft breeze moving leaves style. Storybook realism with historical detail. Part 4. The bells and the birds. When the sky finally turned that deep, velvet blue, the abbey bells would toll softly across the town. Not loud, not sharp, just a slow, even note that echoed like a lullaby. It marked Compline, the final prayer of the day. The garden would hush. Birds, having chirped and fluttered all afternoon, would now tuck themselves into the high cypress branches or the warm hollow beams of the garden wall. Owls would take their places silently, and those left awake would sit in the garden's small round clearing and speak of dreams. Dreams were not just nighttime fancies then. People believed dreams could travel through leaves, carried by the breeze or settled in dew. A wish whispered to the evening wind, they said, might settle beneath the lavender and take root. Sometimes, as the moon rose, tiny harps would play. Not in performance, but in gentle solitude, someone plucking a few notes to calm the air. The strings were gut, the wood old cherry. Notes would rise and fall like breath. And in that moment, there was nothing else. Just moonlight on moss, harp strings on wind, and the silver hush of old trees listening. AI image prompt number 4, use at 10 o'clock, prompt. Moonlit medieval garden clearing with a circle of mossy stones, a young woman seated quietly playing a small cherrywood harp, soft silver light illuminating lavender and thyme beds, owls perched quietly in cypress trees, ivy-covered walls in background, faint glow of candlelight from a nearby cottage, peaceful atmosphere, dreamlike serenity style. Cinematic moonlight realism, muted tones.